to make empathy present. How do it's see so no, when it works, it works. I'm listening.
Yeah,
I'm talking too
great.
much to be empathic. I got to listen.
Great. Thanks, Lou. Melissa, would you like to share? Just introduce
Sure.
yourself or
My name
literature
is
review.
sure. My name is Melissa Oudshoorn-Fuller. I have a difficult time still pronouncing my Dutch last name after 15 years. Um, I live in the Netherlands, and I'm an American and a late bloomer academically. I started and finished a master's degree in my 40s, and I'm now started a PhD with a grant from the Dutch government to integrate empathy skills training into higher education curricula. And so that's what I've been working on since September, trying to gather information and ideas and some evidence to build an empathy skills development curricula for starting in the communications profession, which you'd think was so, yeah, yes, so not necessary, but apparently that doesn't exist. So trying to borrow and steal from as many places as I can to help get this off the ground and kickstart this in the Netherlands.
Great.
That's where I am.
Thank you, Melissa. Sasha?
Um, uh, isn't it like that everybody knows me already?
Oh, okay. It's,
I think so.
I guess you were in the same circle with Lou last time, so he
Yes,
knows
yes,
you.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to skip that, that's fine. So does anyone have items for the agenda? I was going to give another tour of the website. I had added some papers, some measurements, some other headings for categories, and then
Great. I think I've updated what I had as much as I had so far, but it's always a work in progress. So I'd love to see where we are, and yeah, let's see where we get how we get through.
Okay, let me get the screen share up here. So this is the website, the Training Lit Review website. We have on the home page where we have the description, set of links. You can always find the Hangout link for this call here on the home page, and we're having a bio for everyone. So we're add Lou to this. I'm so glad you're joining us. I'm super excited about that, Lou. And we have an input form that Melissa created a spreadsheet form for adding papers related to training empathy with a lot of different headings. You can go through and fill that out. And I also, since Melissa, you sent the Google form for that, I created a link to it. So there's now a page where you can see the output of the form, so you can see it right in the on a web page.
Very good.
So I did some work on measurements. So I've gone through on different empathy measurements. So each measurement gets its own web page. And for example, there's the empathy in the eyes test. So each test will have its own web page, and we can link to it and add material about it. So we'll have like a central list. In fact, this is the biggest list I know of already on tests of empathy. And I think we can just keep adding different tests. And we can keep fleshing it out. This is only a beginning, rough draft.
Edwin, does that link directly from the input from the form? So when a new study comes up that, for example, use the bees measurement, that will then automatically go on the bottom of the page?
I don't quite know how to do that with the input form. How do you it's more like here, if we put in create a paper, put in a paper manually, so we got a heading for articles, papers, studies, that here we can, reference, we can create a link to the target groups, to the methods. We could even, and then it's easy to reference there. So in a sense, I think this actually all needs to be in an XML document, which is more of a database type document. There might be other ways. I think this is just a prototype, something that we have to get started, and we can keep looking at the technology and keep refining it. So there it is. There is not yet connected somehow to the input form. I think the problem with the input form is having hyperlinks to other. Like with this, we can hyperlink. Everything can be interrelated and hyperlinked, which would be really good. We've got a link here for meetings, so we can keep track of our, all the stuff we come up with in our meetings, so we can keep track of the dialogue for the different meetings. Started creating this methods, so like empathic inquiry, empathy circles, empathy maps, which comes out of the design community. So there's a lot of tools for teaching empathy within design community. There's feelings translation. So this is like a method for empathy, which is that the NVC, or nonviolent communication community, uses, which is you hear someone's feeling, so for example, a feeling of fear, and you can translate it into what the background need or value is, which might be security. So that's like, or it could be the focusing methodology, which is following a felt experience, speaking from felt experiences. So it's really we can just keep adding more and more methods and get more and more granular with the methods, role playing, role modeling, self-empathy, service learning, stuff like that. And then there's the papers. So there's about 20 papers been added already. And there's a template here. Each section has a template. So if we create a new paper, add a new paper, you can just create create a web page. To create a web page, all you do is go up here, click, like Edwin, let's say, Edwin 2016, and then just create, and it automatically creates, the page. But I should have put it in like the papers section. But then we can open up this, do a copy here of the format, go into the Edwin, and you create the headings, the different categories, and just kind of start filling it out. And then you just save it, and can also do hyperlinks. Like you can find it's pretty easy to do hyperlinks, because you just go, if there's like a topic area, you can highlight the topic area, and then you go in to do links, and it just shows you, target, like if it was businesses, and that would create a hyperlink to that. So it's pretty easy. I mean, and everyone gets permission, so everybody can go in and add those, and all you hear, then you save, and then it's saved, and you can move it around. Like I could move the page to papers, and then there's a column, a section for sort. Oh, there's an area for target group, so business, healthcare trainees, K-12, medicine, college students, therapy, and so we can just keep getting more and more granular in terms of the target group that the studies are looking at. And then also an area for sorting, just kind of ideas. So we could even add like a column for definitions, and I was just playing with that like, we could have, like, here's Dan Batson's 8 definitions of ways that empathy is used, so we could have a heading for each one, state matching, emotional contagion, perspective taking, imaginative empathy, which for me is kind of role playing, empathic concern, empathic accuracy. So that could be like a heading, have all those, and then if there's a study, you kind of analyze the study, break it up by the target group, you know, the how are they, what definition are they using for empathy, you know, what methods, what measurements, and so it kind of can really break it up and really see how they're. So I think that would be really helpful. So anyway,
this is just such an amazing resource, you know, that we're making here. I really think this is really a fantastic initiative that we're involved in.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if we have like grad students like yourselves, you know, doing papers, you put everything in here that you're working on, and then the next grad student working on their paper, they add more, and it just keeps becoming a bigger resource instead of reinventing the wheel all the time. I think this could be I thoroughly agree with that. I'm excited about it when I look at when I was you know, kind of playing with. I could just see the potential and how granular we could really get with this.
I do too. Thank you so much for facilitating this, Edwin.
Okay, so yeah, so it'll be like coming up with like what categories we want to add. You know, how do we, you know, it's a matter of getting everyone to actually start doing the input because it's kind of a time-consuming process. But so that's it. That's kind of where I got so far. So I don't know what do y'all think, or what would be productive to talk about.
Well, first of all, K-12 means kindergarten to high school diploma, or is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with this term. Well, second of all, I think it's a wonderful idea, and the only pitfall that I might foresee is that it will be kind of hard to actually. I mean, we are creating, we are all collecting data, and I think everybody is committed to that idea. And I have to agree with Melissa that it's a wonderful idea. Maybe we could also think about how to make use of technology a little bit more, because actually it is very hard because many of us already have databases. I have a database which is well, not as it's getting there. It's promising, but and Unity, for example, he also brought up this point at our last meeting. He's using a database for empathy. Now, the idea is how to take this data and convert it to this website. How to put it inside. Maybe if you can, if you could have an online database. I don't know if Google offers that. Because actually, I mean, it will be a lot of work to get to organize this knowledge on the basis of a website.
Yeah, that is true, and that's why, you know, we put the link, because the Google Docs spreadsheet, it's basically a spreadsheet. So any information from Mendeley or EndNote or any of the article, you know, collection places can be exported in an Excel or any kind of spreadsheet file. The trick is just matching the content headings, the column headings, with the headings that we would use here. And so there is a little bit of a translation issue, but that's not overcomable. That's not so bad. I think that one of the things about, you know, the databases that we use, like RefWorks or EndNote, for example, is that they're populated with some data, but not the depth of content that we have been trying to collect here, like, you know, the result and things that you could bring over from an abstract, absolutely, but often that detail isn't recorded really in those databases, or are you using something else?
Well, I'm using a Swiss product. It's called Chitavi. Now I'm not promoting Chitavi, although I think it's a wonderful piece of software, and it's not exactly cheap. It is 100 euros, but also not exactly expensive. No, I was thinking that maybe that is my mishap, that I didn't get the connection between the input form and what Edwin just showed us of creating entries, for example, at papers written, and linking the papers with other sections. I
I
mean
think there
that's
has to be a way to do that. I mean, I'm going to actually ask my husband later. He's an IT guy, and I'm going to see. There's got to be a way to have, merge fields that can be placed in there. So the data that's in a specific line or column should be able to be merged over there. So I just can't imagine that that's not some kind of function, but I don't know myself. So I do have to look into that to see that if somebody were to input a like Lou did, you inputted 2 things into that form, or 2 of your things came into the form. Maybe someone else input them for you.
No, I did that. I did that.
Yeah,
You're
great.
right. I
So
said,
then,
let me try and use the product here.
yeah. So then there has to be a
But
way that we can get
what
that to
happens to
translate
it
to a.
that? With that? What, I mean, I think the form is fine. It would be lovely, of course, if somebody had a separate database to be able to import that lock, stock, and barrel.
Mhm.
But, I was just trying to import a single book. What actually
Right.
happened to that? You saw that. I'm
Yeah.
gratified.
Yeah, well, there were the examples in there that was really great to see, because there has to be a way to get that data every time someone enters a new entry, that it could make a page. I'm hoping to find. I will find out. I will explore that a little longer, so that if someone takes the trouble to enter something, those data fields are already there, because you click the boxes that you want it to,
Well,
the
what did I
fields.
do? I mean, I think and what happened? I'm just curious. I mean, no, and there's nothing wrong. And this is not the truth with a capital T. What happened to that data that I put in? It's good.
Well,
I can show you if you look at the input form. If you go to, you go to the input form,
Yeah.
and then you can see I just added. Oh, there we go. Here's the input form that you inputted into.
Yeah.
And then I just added a new heading here titled "See the Form Results."
Yeah.
So you can click on that.
Yeah.
And that shows you the spreadsheet, and there's your listing here. So you can go through and see all the data you entered. You can see all the data within the spreadsheet too, and you can make the page larger so you'll be able to see more of the.
So anytime anyone enters that, you can scroll down, Lou, and see the dates there that someone entered something, and they just keep building. So anything else
I
that
mean,
gets
if I
entered
were to
can just go
try,
in.
this is somewhat somewhat narcissistic, but what the heck? If I'm here on the Empathy Training Lit Review landing page with that lovely book, and it's got all of this measurements on the left, and meetings and methods and papers, and I like hot. He's got some, and sorts. How would I navigate to what I put in from here?
Okay, so you're
That's
here.
interesting.
I can show you. You're on the main. Oops, you're on the home page here. I'm showing it right. You're on this page.
Yeah.
So you can see on the left side it says input form.
Yes.
And so you click on the input form.
Yeah.
And then you see. Oh, let me get.
No. I mean, I got that. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'll let you know.
Yeah, but see this heading right there? It says "See the form results."
I think what you were asking is how do you make that appear on the place where you click that says papers?
Right. And considering that it wasn't a paper, it was a book.
Right. Well, whatever the paper or the book or whatever the input is, that's the one issue that we're trying to figure out now. How do you get from the input form to make that automatically create a page over where it says papers? And we don't know how to do yet. So what Edwin was doing is he was just taking that information and making pages from it
Sure.
instead of having that automatically happen. So I'm gonna investigate is it possible to make that happen automatically?
Well, wouldn't that be lovely?
Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah. Yeah, because right now, I mean, this is so. But you can see the humor in this. I got the first thing I'm interested in. This is not my most empathic moment today, although there's nothing wrong with it. Where's my name?
Sure. Well, don't feel bad, Lou, because I mean,
some slack. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't feel bad, Lou, because I was entering papers too, and I haven't had a chance yet to make pages for them either.
Yeah,
so,
it would be a bullet on this page. I mean, if we wanted to stuff everything on the landing page, that would be almost. Well, I mean, you're right. There are some. This is where I don't know whether you want to call it. It's a design issue. We're designing a website.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're designing a website.
Yeah.
And so
if we have 300 pages, of course, of 300 papers and books, that's not going to work out so much in one big long list. But that's the nice thing about dividing them into, theories or into measurement methods or into, participant groups or audiences. So I think that is kind of where we are tonight. How do we want to divide those?
Library. This is sometimes called library science, right? I wrote this book, and I happen to have a bibliography of 120 books, all of which are relevant to empathy. It wouldn't get in this reference list if it wasn't. I'm not saying it contains tests or measures, but it contains something. It's, like somebody was saying, it's a review article or a review. It reviews. It's a major contribution by Baron Cohen. And whatever. I mean, and so that's like kaflump. Like Sasha was saying, that's a kind of a database, even if it's not in a spreadsheet. It's in a Microsoft Word list.
And that's where we were talking the other day in the last meeting 2 weeks ago, is that, there's a lot of different evidence, there's a lot of different information and resource out there. There's academically published articles, peer-reviewed journal articles, there's books, there's, testimony and case study from practitioners. There's a lot of different approaches to this issue, and, segmenting the approach has to be done somehow. I mean, So for me, again, if we're going to talk about being self-serving, at my stage where I am is I need to look for, peer-reviewed empirical articles to help build my case further. So for me, I'm interested in putting together that or working on that portion of this Lego tower.
Yeah.
And I know that, Rosa and others were hoping to work on the part from the practitioner side and building that part of the Lego tower. And so I think we have a lot of different facets that we're working on to try and, put these puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, there's one part is that we are focusing on the training aspect. So we're only focusing on articles related to training. So we have the scope that we're working on. And I can imagine it could expand at other points, but I think we need to kind of keep a clear scope on this. And so that's the one part. And the other part was, so Sasha, like if you have a lot of articles, it's like we don't want like a whole dump of just everything you've got, because Yanti sent me like a 0.5 gigabyte file of the actual PDFs that he downloaded. Oh, I shouldn't say this online, but it's like of all these articles that he got, and he turned them into PDFs, and that's 0.5 gigabyte. But all we really want, at least to begin with, is just the training parts. Just where articles. So there's one part. So it's going to be a bit of research to research like how do we do this the best, and I'm using the design principles, which is create a prototype quickly. Don't sit and talk about it. Create the prototype, start using the prototype, and then we learn by doing. So we'll create another iteration of this prototype, And then the other question for me is about the database that you say you have. We want something that's public, that has a public face to it, that not it's not just stuck in somebody's. I mean, that's the whole point. I know all these PhD students who have all done this research. They're like Yanti that have half a gigabyte of documentation, and it just sits in on some drawer somewhere, and all that work isn't like publicly available. So how do we make this publicly available as well as the people can add to it? So that's kind of another criteria.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and I have to say that my my own means are. I mean, I can do a website, but I cannot create a database. I know there are many open source projects out there, and many wonderful people are, engaged in. I mean, I know this technology is out there, and it's for free to create a website like that, whether with a front end that is easy to use, which has a powerful database at the back end, which is easy to manage. But well, you're completely right, Edwin, that it's a good thing to start first. On the other hand, I know that once with a format now, sometimes you have to make a decision first. How large is something going to be? Because once a website has reached a certain size, it will take you will have to outsource it to India to convert it to another database.
And that's why I think starting kind of by collecting the data as in the simplistic form that we can. I mean, I tried to keep that form just the basic, cut and paste kind of thing, that people could look at an article and cut and paste basically the abstract over in several different places. So if somebody wants to learn more, they're going to have to read the article for themselves. I mean, it's not supposed to be a repository of full articles for people. That's kind of maybe going to get us in trouble with a lot of publishers. But at least if you have a DOI link or a place where somebody could access it further, I think just the good thing is trying to get a handle on all these different training methods, and we're never going to have everything, but we're all collecting the same things, I think, a lot. So I saw also from Yanti this thing, and I thought, oh, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that. Oh, I don't have that one. So it's nice sometimes we run into different things, and just being able to sort by intervention or assessment method or focus is already a huge improvement over searching Google for something.
Definitely. And maybe if you ask your husband about this Excel sheet, I think that would be a huge advantage. Because if we have it all the information in one spreadsheet, then if this gets out of hand and grows huge, then it can very easily be converted.
At least it's sortable, and so you can click on that file. And I think everybody too we're easily able to give everybody access to the real spreadsheet. I mean, so they could download the whole spreadsheet if they wanted to. Gosh, if you're going to be open, might as well be open. And if people I'm even okay if people send me their downloaded spreadsheet from whatever resource they have. I can cut and paste those columns over into ours. I mean, that's not a big deal. We're talking about 15 columns of data, and if anything's missing, I mean, yeah, that's not hard to add. But I think it's just building this resource of whatever we have. Even in the database that I don't have all of the detail in every column anyway, but at least we've got it on file. At least we've got a start.
I found it really helpful already, just starting to look at the different methods to go through and really start, okay, what methods are they using, and start breaking that up. Because I'm really getting an overview of all the different methods that are being used and have them in one column, like or even like the measurements. just seeing them all on a list there was already very helpful, and being able to so easily just go through and click through to them, and then even have links to from there to the original. You don't have to download it; it can be just a link. So I was already finding this very helpful.
It is
Just
extremely helpful. Yeah.
And even the papers, I was initially thinking if we just each added like at least 5 papers, between meetings. If there's 5 or 6 or 7 of us, that's that's like, I don't know, 30 papers every couple of weeks, and
there are thousands out there. There are thousands out there. It's just overwhelming to see all of these different things. And I mean, I'm only looking in the peer-reviewed journals, and there's just so much. But but a lot of them are quite old and quite out to date, and they haven't been redone. I mean, so there's a lot of opportunity there too, and also just comparing what's being done and looking at these different methods. I was astounded with the variety of measurement tools that are there, because I only knew of about 50% of those, and I'm quite new at this, of course, but just looking at the variation of what's being measured is so interesting.
Yeah, I put a bunch of them on one web page, that one measurement page, but seeing them listed in a list like this just made it so much more accessible. In fact, I want to take that whole page and eventually put it in here, because this is so much. I mean, it also has the dates, the breakdown. So for me, anyway, for a sense of clarity, it's really, I can feel the clarity, and having a tool to kind of move through this body of information. And we're only getting started here. And I think the whole idea is we're kind of getting a seed planted that can keep growing, and we can start finding those technical folks who can know how to create a database. And I think it might be like an XML database, if you're familiar with that. That that you can have multiple fields, and then from that you can, if you have someone's a programmer, they can lay out the how it's presented and displayed on a web page. But I think just to kind of get the ball rolling here would be really good. And also that we have a group that others can join, like Lou can join. That if Lou, if you know of like especially other grad students, you can point them here, say, hey, come and help, and we can have a team. And also, I'm kind of imagining the having like discussions about the papers too. You can go in and have you can have like a meeting and talk about what is the nature of this paper. Kind of have a bit of a discussion group and stuff too. So
I will tell anybody I refer to mention my name, and we'll have them get in contact with you. I don't have anybody at the moment, but who knows what tomorrow may bring.
Well, I know you were looking. I mean, you and I had talked, and you were saying that people are asking you for lessons in teaching empathy, right? It's like they're wanting to kind of do. You've talked about kind of the philosophy and the nature of empathy, and it's like people are saying, well, what is a real lesson? Like a hands-on lesson. So
yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I mean, there's group processes and filling out forms. Heavens knows. I mean, all of this is useful and meaningful at some level. And then there's having a conversation with another human being. I mean, it looks a lot like psychology, right? Call it what you will. It's empathy consulting, counseling, and the way to train one way to train empathy is to remove the obstacles to empathy, and then it unfolds. It shows up. Anyway, I digress.
I think it's all relevant.
My stuff is about that. I mean, it's hard to measure. That can be. It's not impossible.
It's like I see this as kind of like a gateway. This is like one entry point into the big scope of this.
Oh yeah.
And the other, this is like the academic gateway into what we're talking about. The other is the training methods. Creating a training methods, and I put together. Let me just share this. This is like a little prototype, an empathy lessons prototype. Where I'm starting to work on the training, the actual training curriculum. So one of the things is exactly what you're talking about, blocks to empathy, right? So in the same way, we have advising. So there's a
I
whole.
saw that. There are, like, as you say, there are 30 obstacles or so.
And this is only scratching the surface of, analyzing, so forth. Yeah. So.
I think that's a great piece of work. I borrowed that immediately, with a footnote, of course, to you and the culture of empathy. But that really rocks.
Well, the point here is each of these can be a whole hour or 2-hour lesson. So we can.
I looked at the little video. There's some videos there.
Yeah.
You're not in, but these two guys are like interacting and condescending. Anyway, very interesting. I think it's a good example, of a different, as you say, there are different. We talked about this in our last recent conversation. Different on ramps, different ways of accessing empathy, whether improvisation, doing improv exercises, some of which are, I'm blocking on our MIT colleague's name, which I otherwise can't pronounce. This she's a woman and at MIT and even has a class. She's Asian.
Oh, Schwan, she's at Brown.
Schwan.
Uh-huh.
Schwan Smith?
Oh, is the person in our group here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
got it.
I haven't pronounced her last name, but yeah, she's at Brown. She has that training.
Brown, not MIT.
Yeah.
Brown, thank you. Okay, anyway, I digress.
Okay.
Now I added a measurement, but it's in bold and black now. How do I get it to be blue? That's a bit of a technical thing, but and it's not a link.
You added a measurement.
Yeah. Oh, now it's in blue. Okay, it's in blue now. Okay.
Which one was it?
The SPF IRI 2009. Oh, great! I'm happy it worked.
SPF IRI.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me share that then. So is it this one here?
Yes.
Okay, so you created that link. German translation of Davis, IRI, okay, item. Online available for download. Yeah, you can have the link there. You can also...
oh, I didn't hyperlink it. Yeah.
That's fine. You can... Oh, you can, just by highlighting it and then clicking the link up here, that creates a highlight link, or you can even highlight this and then you go into the web address and it creates highlights it there. So then I save that. So then if you just click on there, it kind of opens it should link. Oh yeah, oh nice.
That's great, Sasha. It's so funny to see the word Bildung there. That's like that word is in the middle of my vocabulary. My complete university is in the Bildung spirit at the moment. Everything we do, our whole strategic plan is about Bildung. It's great to see that.
Is it also a Dutch word, Bildung? Yeah.
No. Of course they borrow from the German. I mean, they're our neighbors and everything.
Well, I mean, German and Dutch is more alike than the Dutch would like it, but.
Yeah. I have to say, I have about 10 minutes, and then I have to go check in my kids.
Okay, so I guess
what can I do to be the most helpful right now? What can I add the best right now?
Well, I had initially thought that if we each added 5 papers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
between meetings, that would be just a start, something to start to, you know, and then we can kind of see how it works. And we're looking for, so we're actually doing something, creating this, and then you can try hyperlinking it, break down the study. I mean, like that one had like, I don't know, one paper by that meta review. What's the guy's name?
Yeah.
Butler.
I added them in Butters. Yeah, I added them into the spreadsheet, but I didn't make pages for them yet. Lazy me. But they're there so far.
So yeah, if we at least for now just do a few, at least 5 or so, between meetings, and just to kind of get a sense of it, and then be looking for, is there a better format? Can we find the technical expertise? Because I can't build a database. I mean, I could, but it's, I don't have, it would take too long to learn all the skills and stuff.
Sure.
I'm going to look into that from my end, because again,
Okay.
I had thought that even just having an entry form that builds, a spreadsheet. I mean, a spreadsheet is basically a database, right? I mean, there's got to be a way to translate this over. That's all a database is.
Right.
But just making it talk to the web page and putting the things where they need to go. That's all I have to figure out how to do. So that might sound like a small job or a big job. I don't know. But I'll see what I can do to figure that one out.
Okay, so sounds good. So how do you think, if we're going forward, just adding some papers, and then we'll see how it works, get a sense of maybe different categories we can add, be looking for creating a more effective, website. Yeah, that's.
I think we're starting a good. I think this is a good start.
Okay.
And I think the categories you come up with are really all you need. I think that it is all the categories have such a depth already. I mean, I can't really, from just looking at it, can't really think of any more categories necessary.
Not to be able to look further. I mean, if you're trying to find something on a method, or something that uses a certain intervention, or something that uses a certain assessment method, this will at least get you to that place where you can get the article, and then you can read it further, or it can refer you to more things. So I think this is more like a stepping stone, a leap pad to more. And as we grow and build, it will only become more diverse and more depth. What do you think, Lou?
I think that the thing I learned is I'm about to read about a dozen articles by somebody named Jamal Zeki.
Zaki, yeah, at Stanford.
Well, you're right. I mean, I'm going to read them, and that would qualify as accommodating what Edwin just suggested. And it's very little extra effort on my part to say something about them, having read them. What I don't know in advance, do they use any measurements? Maybe, I think some of them almost surely do, some of them almost certainly don't. And so I want to be, my commitment is to be positive, even though I'm limited in what I can contribute due to the number of commitments that I've got. I feel like it would be useful. I could be useful in that way. 5 articles is not hard. But if you all are working on the same, so, I'm just going to do this anyway, right? I mean,
right. That's the whole idea. Yeah.
That's it. And we're gonna have.
See, the thing is, so please go ahead. Yeah.
We're going to have duplication, Lou. I mean, it would be impossible to think that the people here who are loving the subject aren't all already going to run into literature that we're all reading, because
Yeah.
we're all looking for it.
So-
But so I think, first, before we enter, when we check and see if it's there already, and keep going. And absolutely, we're going to read literature that has nothing to do with training, but is darn good background information about this topic. I think this particular page, this particular page, we really want to focus on, academic literature about training empathy. But there's more pages that we're creating that are looking at it from a different standpoint. So I think really, there's a lot of places we can put whatever literature we come up with.
Yeah, for example, here's the Zaki 2003, Empathy is a Choice, Growing Empathy. So that's in here. I put in here's the name of the author, here's the date, the abstract. How might we intervene to grow people's empathy? So he's asking that question, which is the topic area. It's kind of broad. What was the method used to train empathy? He says it's the choice model. The way to train empathy is to make it desirable. So how do you make empathy desirable is kind of the point he's making here. What assessment does he use? And then you can put in posted by, so I posted, and any other thoughts. And we can even have at some point like discussion groups around one of these articles, right? Say, well, what do you, kind of you have study groups around it. And you can also go in, and if you have this article, even if this is like the beginning post, you can go in and add more to it too. So it's like, just because you got a post in there, that's only the beginning. We can keep fleshing it out and add those other ones, because I think Jamil, he's doing great work, so love to see more of his articles.
So
I totally agree.
I think that's wonderful. Now, if I'm going to add 5 articles, I have to admit I'm a bit confused now. Am I going to use the input form, or am I going to create a web page? Or should I do both?
I would say both.
Both.
And if you don't have time to make the web page, as long as you can put it into the spreadsheet, we've got the data captured, and then as I have free time, I can start looking at what is there, what's not there. Can I add a page here? Can I add a page there? And then I can also add a column with a check mark if it's on. So I think getting it into the spreadsheet, whether you cut and paste it into the main spreadsheet or enter it via the form, that's a great start, because then at least we've got everything captured in one place. Do you think that's okay, Edwin?
I think that's the start. If you're wanting to do all that extra work, I think I love seeing it. For me, it's more accessible and under the papers. I can quickly see it. So it seems like it's nice in both places.
Okay.
I mean, that's for me. It's the most helpful to see it. I mean, so I don't know. How does that sound for Does this feel like too much work, or?
I'm good with that. But if anybody forgets, then I know where the information is, at least.
So you like to see, what I'm hearing is you like to see it in the spreadsheet, because then you're willing to create a web page for it. And at least you've got some kind of an entry is kind of what I'm hearing there.
If you can't do both, I think at least put it in the database.
And how do you feel about that, Sasha? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm seeing 2 systems here, and I mean, there's stuff on the web page which is not on the database, and there's stuff in the database which is not on the web page. But it's fine for me. I think to have it like it is now organized as a web page is you have a very good overview, and you have the advantage of linking it. The database has the advantage that you can later on convert it to another database. So I can see both databases, but when we know something about human nature, that we do tend to be a little sloppy, and I think to do both, it will be hard to motivate people to do the web page and the database at the same time.
Well, I think
Which,
either way, if one does one or the other, at least we have them. And I think do whichever
Okay.
one is handy for you.
Right.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I will make a complete list of whatever is missing from either side. So we have one resource as we go along. But I think that we're also going to grow in our technology to be able to capture that. My understanding, honestly, I thought that the web pages were created from the database, but I misunderstood that. So now that I know that's not the case, yeah.
Maybe if you ask your husband, because I mean, what Google does, like a web page is a database. A web page is already a database. Maybe there's a way of reading the database from Google. I mean, I
That's what
know
I'm going to
that.
try and find out, yeah.
Yeah, because if you create a database with Joomla, for example, or with WordPress, then you always have a back end, which is, and you can read the database from the back end. So I don't know if that's possible with Google. I don't know if Google
I would just
actually.
not, I could not believe that that's not possible. So I just don't know how to do it. So I don't want to speak, I speak from ignorance here, but I speak from hope as well. So.
From hope.
So
It's
maybe,
that very little
but,
thing in the corner, huh? Like out of Pandora's box. It was that one little thing that stayed, huh?
no, but that's I think that's something that somebody who is a little knowledgeable about how Google website work can tell us if you're already creating, if Edwin has already created a database with a web end, with a web front end, and if Google is willing to actually allow us to read that database. That's another question. Or if you
I will find
just.
that out.
Hmm.
But on that note, I have promised my children 2 minutes ago that I would be downstairs.
Okay, so we had set our
Stories.
for closing, we had set our intention to foster an empathic way of being, and in closing our group here, we want to blow that intention out into the world and take it with us. So if we take a deep breath from everywhere around the world, let's blow that intention out. That officially closes the meeting for this time, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
I so appreciate all of you for contributing, great and small, to this effort. This is just fantastic to see. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Melissa, and everyone
Thank
else
you
too.
very much.
Okay.
Signing off. Have a great
Bye.
day.